This is Stare Down the Bull. I'm your host, Susan Hunt. Around here, we tackle the hard stuff: how to lead with clarity, leveraging AI, and turn strategy into real results. My guest today brings a powerful perspective on how to do exactly that. Let's dive in. Today on Stare Down the Bull, we're joined by Justin Chiu, a sharp mind in AI who's helping push the boundaries of how machines think, plan, and interact with the world. Justin has the rare ability to break down complex ideas in code generation and machine learning and turn them into something real, usable, and forward moving. He's someone who doesn't dodge hard problems. He runs straight at them. And today we're diving into his journey, the breakthroughs, the setbacks, and where he believes the AI industry needs to stare its own bull down. Justin, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
So let's get started. What first pulled you into AI machine learning, and what is your general story that got you to here?
Yeah, for me, I think the beginning of it was like for undergrad that I picked to study computer science. And personally, it's out of reasons that because back then I have like a tiger mom, like very strict parents. So the computer time is highly restricted. And then the
Huh?
only way for me to use more time is say, hey, I study in computer science. Like using computer is like part of my study. So I have to do that. But then of course, back then with undergrad, a lot of time I actually not studying. But then it pulled me into computer science. And then later on, as I go through my undergrad, I realized I sort of want to do a grad school in US. And then I come to US, study at CMU, and that's the beginning of the time where I really get exposed and sort of start specializing in AI. And then afterwards, it's sort of the long journey till nowadays. Yeah.
That's awesome. And when did you decide that when did you realize you wanted to work to make, a real world impact in AI?
I think that's sort of correlated with my grad school experience because
Hmm.
back then, even in CMU, which is a wonderful school, and I learned so much from there, I can have a sense that if you are in academics or like if you are a student or you are like sort of in a research institute, people will treat your work or the stuff you do. If you're a student, they think your project is like a toy project thing, and then you really need to start building those sort of industrial experience after you going into an industry and start really delivering AI product or AI models to production. And then if you are in school, then you of course you have a different system where people care about your paper publications, citations, and all that, which is great. But then you feel like maybe there's some sort of isolation between actual affecting actual people's life versus, oh, I published in a top tier conference that got cited multiple times, which is wonderful. But it's
Hmm.
something that I find it more interesting in sort of contributing to in people's daily life.
So how has your view of AI changed over the years? Because I know that we've had this very long tail of AI, and then it feels to even the people that have been in the industry for a long time that it kind of changed overnight. So how has your view changed on it?
So I think there are a few aspects of it. One of them is like so back when I was in grad school, which is sort of where I started the AI. I think AI was sort of or machine learning, generally speaking, is considered something like a functional stuff. So we build this model for this task. We build this model for other tasks, and then it's like one by one, you want to build an automatic model or a system that can solve that intelligently, and then that was sort of the AI back then, which was the time I was in school. But I think nowadays, because of like the ChatGPT or like Gemini, all those bigger models start showing up. I think people want to make AI sort of feels like sort of an oracle of everything. That you
Yes.
have this great AI model that you build, this will address everything for you, and then that means you only need this, you don't need anything else, and that sort of becomes sort of exclusive. And it's like, oh, you have this AI model, like you have ChatGPT, it's gonna do everything for you. And then this sort of like broad coverage was sort of a change, probably because also on the business perspective, they want to make sure that, oh, we provide you such a strong solution that solve your problem. Like your future will be fine with this AI model there, which I think is a very bold statement. And I understand that because if you have this kind of claim, then it attracts much more business, much more investment. But still, I think we are sort of lacking the focus, and then we try to make it so generic nowadays compared to like a while ago. I think the attitude towards AI has become very different now. Yeah.
So, how would you explain the problems you're working on right now in plain English? And, like, what is the holy grail of AI in your opinion?
Yeah, so the problem what I'm working on right now in my job is that I'm trying to build like efficient AI models for for a specific use case. And for my job, it's like enterprise use case. So
Yes.
solving specific problem. But this is like a generic thing. How I'm trying to address that is whether we were able to use it in the intelligent way and a sort of like also a cost aware way where, for example, you solve problem with a smaller model with certain learning algorithm like reinforcement learning, which is what I focus in, that trying to train the model in a way that it can perform decently well on a small task. Yet, this decently, that yes, yet this solution is sort of within a reasonable cost, and then it does not require a whole setup that you need like $1 billion company do that. It's sort of like in a controlled environment and in a controlled scope. We were able to solve it efficiently. And of course, the holy grail people want to say is that, oh yeah, like a generic one, right? You want to say, oh, I built this model that solved everything. And this is of course a holy grail. But in reality, what we have seen that which already been achieved is something more like AlphaGo, where it is like it is an AI model, it trained for only one thing. And it does so well that no human can beat it. Like the reality is we were able to do it in a restricted domain, but I think the people nowadays, they say, oh, the holy grail, the pursue thing they want to pursue, that's something that is sort of for every problem that human can achieve. And I think there's a gap there. But that's
Yeah.
difference from what we want and what we can do. Yeah.
Yeah. And, where we are today compared to where we were with AI even 5 years ago is stunning. The change, I think, has been really stunning. So it'll be exciting to see what happens over the next 5 years as well. What's one thing that you think people totally misunderstand about your field?
Um, I think the biggest misunderstanding is that there is still no like humankind intelligence in there. The joke I like to make is that whatever I'm building right now, I'm training a super electronic parrot. Like even nowadays for all the work, it's like super electronic parrot. It costs a lot of electricity, a lot of data, but it's still a parrot. And
Yes.
then in a more mathematical way, it's sort of like you are still trying to say something that's highest probability given what you already see before. Like no matter for all the recent work that ChatGPT, Gemini, they are still doing that. They are doing it in a glorified way. But I know
Yes.
sometimes news will say that, oh, some person found that AI become conscious, and then oh, it's like a person trapped in a machine. We have to rescue them out. But in reality, they are super electronic parrots. And then most of the popular models now that we can see are still super electronic parrot. Maybe they have some trim down to make it more cost efficient, or may have some design make it more intelligent. But the idea is still the same, maximizing whatever it's supposed to say given what it's seen before. And once you have this idea of, oh, this is just like a super electronic parrot, then I will say AI maybe sound less cool, but I will say that will be closer to reality. That, for example, we or my job will be like making sure that it speaks the right thing given the proper context. But that's like a very parrot setting. Instead of, oh, I'm educating a kid, it's a very different from that. It's still very sort of data driven and context driven thing, not so much like intelligence.
Okay. Tell me about a moment that really humbled you in your career.
So I think there are also a few aspects. Some of them are technical, some of them are non-technical. So I can provide example in one of them. So I think the technical one, there were times that I'm really trying to say, oh, since I'm training a new model, my goal was trying to say whether am I able to sort of using the model to sort of improve itself. So really the goal was trying to sort of make the model be better by some sort of a self-reinforced loop. So kind of like you want to have a kid and then the kid was sort of getting better by learning by itself. I'm trying to do that with a model, and then the hope was that, hey, if this sort of automatic loop can complete, then this approach, even though I experiment on a small model, it can be applied to bigger model that maybe even big company when they saw this work, they will find inspiration from this. Hey, like this becomes sort of a self-growing AI model that becomes better. And I gave it some thought. I really thought that could potentially be done. And the experiment results say otherwise, like it doesn't really work. But at least knowing that that is not gonna happen, like the problem is harder than I expect. So I guess there's like less intelligence and more the parrot thing. And then so like there are still a lot to pursue on technology wise. And
Yeah.
non-technology wise, I think there's a big difference at the beginning of my career versus the in the current stage. That is the part that are not algorithm is actually more important than algorithms. And by saying that, I mean that like at the beginning of my career, it's like, oh, I learned the most up to date technology, the algorithm. I think I can train things better than everyone else. But that is very far from actually making whatever you build into product and deliver to user.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
the gap there, yeah, the gap there is about communicating what you are doing in a way that other people understand and really collaborate with
Yes.
you. And then making sure that even though some other people, they are not as technology, like that, close to technology, they feel that you are trying to help them. And together you are building something together that we push together to to the product and to push the user versus something like, oh, this AI thing was so difficult you don't need to understand anything, but I'll tell you what you're supposed to do. That kind of mentality
Yeah.
change. I think I learned through my own mistakes in my career, but I think it's beneficial that you need to be able to communicate well what you are doing and how to bring value to other people.
Yeah, as a marketer into these enterprises, it is like one of the most difficult things is translating what the R&D team is doing and accomplishing into a business case that's gonna be meaningful and digestible, I guess would be the right word for the customer that you're talking to, right? And give them the reasons why this matters to them. It is that's always kind of like a big struggle, and it's a little bit of a leap that we all have to take each and every time there's some sort of new technology that comes out. Um, which AI development excites you the most and which worries you the most at this point?
So I think the worrying part in some sense is also the exciting part, but I think that's something we have to face. And I will say that I will say probably worry more than the excitement. That is right now AI have reached current capability. I think there will be more and more like scamming and spying. I think that is sort of like using AI for your personal good and harming other people. And if you look at news, like Facebook or Meta recently says in their financial report saying that like about 10% of our revenue is from scam ads or like the it's like the bad way for making money. But imagine if if some malicious person, they can say, "Oh, I'm gonna put ads for scam on Facebook, and then we are gonna use AI to convince people to send money to scam them with money, or use AI to hack their personality, like personal information, and then to do the hurtful thing." But because AI as a tool, like I said earlier, it's a super electronic parrot. So whatever it learn to do, it'll just keep doing things. And imagine now with the society, like there will be more elderly people now, which could be easier to get scammed. And now you have AI that are so designed to scam them. And then that could be their
Yeah.
life saving. That will be gone because like the AI was really they can really train in a way that is so convincing that convince you to buy them crypto or like send money to them. You can see that. And there's really nothing you can stop from that. Some people will say, oh yeah, you can legislation can say, oh, I want to stop the big company from doing that kind of thing. Yeah, but there are open source out there which people will download it, they will train themselves. There's no way to control that. And then from there, like the AI, even though it's coming from the brightest mind of like our current age, that can be used for bad thing. And even though, let's say, for the people who are familiar with, we can identify, oh, this seems to be spoken by an AI. But that might not be the case for the grandma or grandpa. Like they might
Yeah.
just get really scammed, and then once they got scammed, they will feel like, oh, this technology really do harm, and I think that is a really concerning part. But I will say that I will say it's probably pretty challenging to control this because different like this AI trend is also so many of those are open sourced. Like, and if you do it open sourced, it means everybody has access of it. And I kind of like to make a comparison, which is like there's a very good reason why we don't open source nuclear weapon, right? I mean,
Yes.
you can if you open source that, sure, everyone have free access of it, but we are probably gonna have a lot of bad things gonna happening. But in the current AI, a lot of them is already open sourced. And then for the company that using it, they can try their best to prevent from bad things to happening. But like for the people who just using open source resource, maybe they are not as good as OpenAI's model. They are 80% as good, but they can still use that to scam people, and there's sort of very limited way to stop that. And then if you check the news recently, another news which is from Cloud, another AI vendor, they say that oh they found potential malicious user trying to use their platform and their agents try to spy on other company and just breach other company because the agent will find out a way to sort of breach that. And these kind of thing, I think, as AI keep developing, will probably happening more and more. And even though myself might have some way to avoid this happening to me, but I'm fully aware this could damage like bigger crowd, like the people are retiring with their own retirement saving. If you scam them, then their entire saving is gone. That's very, very bad.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there's a lot of bad actors out there that could utilize AI to do some real damage to, not just seniors, but also there's, some international bad actors that are, going after all of our enterprises every single day with AI. There's so much risk that needs to be fought. So, I guess the solution to that is create AI that can counter those type of actions, use it against them as well. So I absolutely agree with you that that's a big concern. What big shift in AI do you think people are underestimating? And I know this is kind of a loaded question. So,
So I think um, people are right now, I think one thing that people are talking about is really like return on investment. So like very
of
business related
course,
metrics, like your
yes,
earning, your but I think a lot of those use case are their value or their hurt are really not captured in this sense of like return on investment. For example, like AI could potentially start scamming, like scamming people. No, sorry, not scamming, but like producing fake news or producing posts, or even it can just like producing fake user and fake posts, and then to flood it any forums out there, which will make it seems like oh the public opinion is different from the reality is because so many of those results are coming from AI, and you can see that those kind of information you can call it information warfare. I think it's a beginning because
yes,
recently the image generation, which is like generating image out of the prompt, is also getting more popular together with the text, so that for a user that doesn't know about that, it's like a full experience. Before you only have text, now you have fake text and fake image, and for them it seems just so immersive and so true that oh something that I thought that wasn't true was actually so mainstream now and then so popular right now. And then that could be sometimes they don't need you to believe in it. They just need to overload the user with so many information out there. And then it's easy for user
flood
to say,
the
oh,
environment.
it's just a mess. So don't even worry
Yeah,
about it because the whole thing is completely a mess. But maybe half of the mess are not even generated by human. They just want you to be stay away from certain topics or certain information. They just got flooded with so many things generated by AI. It could be image, could be text, and then it let actual people lose interest on that. And I think that is very damaging. And then that's not really sort of like capturing ROI. Like how can you capture your ROI for 50 extra like X post, right? But really that'll impact impact a lot of people's view towards the world and then towards on the internet.
absolutely. They're flooding if they're flooding the zone with fake information, fake photos, it totally will impact the way that people view whatever the topic is on a global scale. I think that is pretty scary. It's very
Yeah.
scary. So I
Like
always ask,
imagine,
go ahead. Go
yeah,
ahead,
no,
Justin.
imagine like this is a great podcast, and then the AI just generate 2,000 fake podcasts that has completely useless and flaw the same platform. And then at that point, even the high quality content might get flooded because there are so many like the new podcasts of the day. You can have 50 of them. How are users gonna consume them? But then maybe, as you mentioned, maybe having some AI to detect those and try to avoid
Yes.
those generate content will be a solution. But I think that's something that people are not fully aware of the impact that could be. Yeah.
And I think it's gonna be really hard to legislate this as well because at least the people that are presently in Congress and in the Senate that are actually looking at this have very limited knowledge, in my opinion, of, at a deep level about the tech. And that's like really obvious when they have a Zuckerberg sitting across from them in Congress being grilled. Like they're not even really clear on what the questions are they're supposed to be asking. And it just is that chasm is massive between those two groups of people. So it's going to be difficult to legislate. And even if it's legislated, it's going to be very difficult to control it on a global scale. We don't control the globe. We control what happens in our country in theory. So I totally agree with you. It may be a very big problem. How do you keep yourself grounded in a field that's moving so fast?
So I think that will go back to sort of my personal interest, which is that I try to I read and then I try to learn from history. And from what I learned from history, and then I like to sort of compare with what we have right now, because some people are saying that like humanity is like history keep repeating by itself. So if you learn something that are sort of like that happened long ago, and if you like you see similar thing happening now, I think that helps you understand what are important and what are not important, because usually only the important things are left from history. Like the not important thing, the history automatically filtered it out. So if you have something that you see in the history and now you're seeing it again,
Yeah,
those are probably a very good sign that, oh, there could be a recurrence of the similar stuff. And because the problem for the AI right now is that the field nowadays not only are so fast, there are so much information. Like even if you try to read the up to date paper that are published in the top tier conferences, the information will overload you. And like
yeah,
even picking what paper to read will be a challenge by itself. So the
yeah.
solution for that will be, with your knowledge, or at least if you look at in the past and then look at right now, like what was important back in the past, and then maybe similar thing could be important now, even though it's in different domain, it's in AI, but still.
So you think that there'll be a big consolidation of the AI companies at some point that will
So
help
yeah,
this
from
problem a
this
little bit
perspective, I like to brought up an example for self-driving car, because this is a history that was like 4 or 5 years ago. That's also
near
happened
term.
during my career. And then if you remember early 2000, 2001, 2021, 2022, at that time, people are so very hyped into like the self-driving car, and people are like, so many startups showing up say, oh, we're going to solve self-driving. We're going to do L5. Like in the future, your car will not even have a driving wheel. You just sit in there, you say where you're gonna go, it'll go for you. And then back then, so many companies working on that. You just need a few years, and people will realize, oh, it's actually kind of far. We are far from there. And what happened there is that a lot of the money leave the field, and then major players like Waymo and Tesla right now, they are still working on it. I'm pretty sure they will get better. They have wonderful engineers over there, but a lot of the bubbles or the hype goes down, and then the
Yeah,
people who have a resource are committed will continue working towards the direction. But only those are people that they will be there regardless there's a bubble or not. And I can see similarity between the self-driving just 5 years ago versus the large language model that happening right now. But fortunately, some of the infrastructure actually continue because we all use GPUs. So in that
right.
sense, if you invest in GPU, it's not wasted. But the application is different. For me, I don't think I can solve the self-driving thing, but it's all machine learning and we all use
Yeah.
GPUs.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't wanna be a CTO at this point at a major corporation because it's impossible to know, who's doing what in AI. I mean, what's coming up, things are changing so quickly, there's new companies coming in that have brilliant products that aren't getting the attention of the CTOs or they're being missed somehow, so there's just so much going on that I agree. I think that there will be some type of significant consolidation, which might make it a little bit easier to understand how to use each bucket of AI at some point. So this is stare down the bull. So I always ask this question. I'd love for you to share, Justin, what your stare down the bull moment was in your life with the audience, be it personal or business wise, whatever you'd like. We'd love to hear what it was.
Yeah. So I found this question interesting because I really just have this experience about like 6 or 7 months ago. And
Oh,
then I think this matched the stare down the bull question completely. So I'm gonna share. It's more of a personal experience. So around this April, I have a trip to Brazil just for fun. And then on the street was Sao Paulo. I
no.
was just walking down the street, walking to my next attraction, like very normal touristy thing to do. And then just at that point on the street, I saw like two guys robbing another robbing another bro couples in front of me. And that's about like 50 meters in front of me. It's like the robbery literally just happened right in front of my face. And then the moment when I saw that, what I choose to do now right now when I think it's probably not a good idea. But back then, what I do is I really just charge towards the robbers because I want to stop them, saying like, "Hey, like, why are you guys doing it?" And then there was really a moment that because what happened there is the two robber, one of them is fighting with a guy, so they are sort of on the side, and another robber just robs a woman, and then they put her down, grab her bags, and grab her backpack. And then I was charging towards the robber that just robbed the woman, and there was a single moment that I think he looked at my eye and I stare at his eye. And then we sort of have this exchange. And he realized I am going to charge towards him and I'm going to try to stop him. And then I think through that moment, he just started like running away. So he run away with his like with a bag he sort of robbed from people. And the other robber that was fighting with the guy, after he saw his companion run away, he also run away. So they fled, but at least they are safe. And then afterwards, I go with the couple to police there, and then they told the police that they were actually armed, so they have like probably knife or something. But unfortunately, there's no like nobody get hurt. I think they lose a backpack or some bags and maybe a phone, but fortunately they are safe, so not nobody get hurt badly. But
Thank
I think
God. That's dangerous
this
in
is
Sao
like
Paulo,
staring
by the
down the
way.
ball, or like stare for me. It's like stare at a robber thing, which just
That
happened to
literally
me.
was staring down a bull. I mean, I used to work in Sao Paulo, and I would work with this guy, Antonio, who lived there, and he would drive me around in a bulletproof car. It was so
Yes.
dangerous. So for you just to be walking down the street in Sao Paulo and then charging someone that was robbing someone is it's great you're back in Boston right now. I'm happy that you're
I'm
safe.
glad I'm still here to take this interview. I might, if something goes wrong, I might not be able to take this, but I'm here, so that's great.
My God. So what's next for you? What's next for you?
So I personally think that there are definitely interesting thing in the AI that I personally want to look into. I think one of them is some people call it edge computing. So like, are you able to do AI on a small machine or like on your phone without internet connections? Because I think right now what happened is we have all these huge companies doing AI that are have great models that only them can do. But if we are able to use some small AI models like edge computing stuff on everyone's phone, so everyone will control data, everyone control usage, there's no sort of sending the data back to the cloud and let the big company control the data thing. I personally think this direction still has potential because you can imagine the big company will not want to push toward this direction because that let the data out of their control. They want to collect even more things. So for me, I think on the edge part, I think that's one topic that I'm really interested in. And then the other one I'm also interested is like defense related because I will say that right now I think the world itself is getting more chaotic, and I think the AI could definitely like help in the defense domain, which can save people's life. and which I
Yes.
think is very, very important for any technology. So I
Yeah,
think
well, we
these direction I think are the very interesting thing for me. Yeah.
the latter for sure is of interest to the federal government. I work with Carasoft and some other groups that sell pretty consistently into the federal government, and we are seeing a lot of discussion and work that is going towards AI in defense. I do think that that's a massive area that we're going to see progress really quickly, actually, over the next few years. So that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. And I do think that like with my expertise, I can contribute to that if I get the opportunity. So personally, I look forward for that to happen. But if not, if I'm not connected, then it's fine. But I do think that's very interesting domain. Yeah.
Well, we should definitely talk about that because I actually do know a few people in that realm that might be interested in talking to you.
That will be wonderful.
Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, thank you so much for joining us today on Stare Down the Bull. It was excellent, excellent talking to you. Really great information. And I very much appreciate you coming on to share your thoughts. And if you do that edge computing on the cell phones, then let me know and we'll come back and have a whole new discussion about that and how
No
that
problem.
works.
Thank you very
Th-
much.
Thank you. Have a good day. Thank you for listening to Stare Down the Ball. If today's conversation sparked new ideas, share it with a colleague and keep the momentum going. The future belongs to leaders who act, so subscribe and join us again next week.